Another key benefit of retaining the same wrestlers was the ability to run angles and storylines. Without their wrestlers going elsewhere to wrestle, the trio were able to extend feuds over long periods of time. Their formula would ensure their dominance of the wrestling world for a decade. Soon, local promotions were popping up all over the country, and the newfound competition would begin to take its toll on the trio. And by the late 1920s, their supremacy would finally come to an end. However, their biggest downfall wouldn't be from competition. Rather, their demise came in the form of a man named Stanislaus Zbyszko. What was planned as a standard dropping of the world title went terribly wrong. Zbyszko was scheduled to drop the belt to a new talent, named Wayne Munt. However, Zbyszko would ignore the instructions of the booker. He instead decided to shoot on and defeat Munt, retaining the title. To exacerbate matters, Zbyszko, out of spite, immediately dropped the title to their biggest competition, Joe Stecher. Stecher would complicate things further by constantly ducking Ed Lewis and his attempts to take his belt back in a shoot fight. This fiasco would cause a considerable amount of damage. By the time they did get the belt back, it was deemed nearly meaningless. This would ultimately cause the demise of the Gold Dust Trio's dominance over the wrestling business. Their brand of slam-bang Western-style wrestling would leave an indelible mark on the industry and set the stage for the modern era of professional wrestling. The 1930s and 40s would see drastic shifts in the landscape of the wrestling world. The driving force of these changes was the fact that the sport was now seen as big business. Rival promotions would raid nearby talent, and each create their own world champion. This cutthroat method of business would persist until the formation of the National Wrestling Alliance in 1948. The influence of the NWA as a central governing body, with its singular, undisputed world champion, would be absolute and undeniable. This control, combined with the expansion of the interstate highway system and the inevitable popularity and availability of regional television, would usher in an era of wrestling that was defined by what would come to be known as the territory system. The territory system would dominate wrestling for nearly 4 decades, while the borders, authority, popularity, and obedience of individual NWA territories was in a near-constant state of flux. To this day, the impact and influence of these territories is still felt.